As you know, confidence is the number one most important trait when it comes to executive presence. People are looking for confidence in their executives. But how does one become confident, especially in situations where there's a lot of fear, uncertainty, doubt? Maybe you're feeling anxious, stressed. Maybe you're dealing with a challenging coworker or a combative customer. How do you show up confident in those kinds of situations? We're going to talk about that today. My name is Tom, and I'm a founder of Vertical Motion, where we help mid-career professionals become executives. You can learn more about that from a link in the description. Today, we're talking about confidence, and we're going to talk specifically about how to sound more confident than you feel. Now, as I said earlier, confidence is one of the most important traits when it comes to executive presence. Executives need to sound confident when they're talking with their team because their team needs to believe in what they're telling them and believe that everything will be okay. When you're a confident leader, you're letting your team know that everything's going to work out the way you think it will, and even if it doesn't, you have a plan for that too. So people are looking to you for confidence, not just in you, but also in themselves and in the system in which you're all working. So that confidence is like a blanket that you spread out over your entire team. Having that confidence is super important in order to make sure that people want to continue moving forward in the direction that you want them to. So how do you deliver your presentations and your conversations with confidence? We're going to talk about that. We're going to give you 3 tips that will help you present with more confidence than maybe you feel in any given moment. Because all of us deal with fear, uncertainty, doubt. We can question our own decisions and question our own levels of confidence in ourselves, in others, in the situation. And that's fine, but in certain moments, you have to show up with more confidence than maybe you feel. And I'm going to talk to you about how to do that. The first tip for sounding more confident than you might feel is to use simple and plain language when you're explaining things. People get frustrated when you're trying to overcomplicate a topic or use big words or jargon or technical lingo that they may not understand. It can be very frustrating because they're having a hard time following what you're trying to say, and now they don't feel like they have enough information or confidence themselves to agree with what you're saying. So the plainer and the more simple you make your language, the more likely you're going to have a larger audience follow you. The other thing to know is that manipulative people like to use big words and complex explanations for things to prove to people that they're smarter than they actually are. So like if you're using a bunch of big words and jargon and lingo, some people like me will assume that you're trying to manipulate me and you're trying to dazzle me, right? One of my favorite expressions is, if you can't baffle them with brilliance, then dazzle them with bullshit. And that's what it feels like when you're using big and complicated words to explain something that could be explained more simply and more plainly. Finally, when you explain things simply, that actually demonstrates mastery of the topic. If you think about this whole concept of ELI 5, explain like I'm 5, help me understand at a very fundamental level what you're talking about. There are some great YouTube videos out there about people explaining physics and the cosmos and really complicated topics at a 5-year-old's level, which are great for those of us who have no idea how the cosmos works, right? So think about that when you are going through an issue. Don't be pedantic, but be able to explain the topic in a way that someone who's not familiar with the detailed nuance of the system you're in a way that they can understand as well. And that's going to help you sound more confident because you're going to have generally more mastery of the topic, and you'll be demonstrating that mastery by explaining it at a level that's lower. So that's tip number 1, be plain and simple in your language. Tip number 2 to sound more confident than you feel in something is to believe in what you're saying. If you are giving an estimate or if you are giving your best guess, say that. Say it out loud. This is my best guess based on the information that we have and the time I've had to think about this. My best guess is this. You can say those qualifying things because that's going to make you feel more confident about what you're saying. It's hard for us to say this is going to happen a certain way when we're not sure if it's going to happen a certain way. But when we say qualifying words like my best guess or my theory is that it will work out this way, that gives them the qualifier true, but more importantly, it gives you the confidence in what you're saying is true and honest and accurate to the best of your ability. So think about it from the perspective of not qualifying your sentences to make sure that you're covering all your bases. Think about it from the perspective of what do you need to hear in your mind when you're talking that makes you feel confident about what you're saying. Say that you don't know the answer and you'll believe that, but share your best guess or judgment with the time and information that you have available to you. And also remember this, decisiveness is far more valuable than being correct. If you have a situation situation where you could go 55 this way, 45 that way. Like, you're not quite sure which decision is the right one. They're both kind of close. Both might work out. Both might not work out. You're not quite sure which way to go. Pick one, because at the end of the day, even if you go the wrong path, but it's only like 45% wrong, whereas it was 55% correct to go the other way, if it's just a little bit worse than this way, you'll still get there. And the decisiveness to take action and go that way will help you move that direction much more quickly and get to where you're trying to go without having to backtrack and go the right way. Another way to say this is that you can't always guess what the right decision is. Instead, make the decision right. So go ahead and take a stance, move forward based on my best understanding of the situation. Be willing to backtrack if it's absolutely the wrong way, but also be willing to say, like, this will get us there too, and move forward in that way. That decisiveness is part of demonstrating this confidence. And finally, the third tip on how to sound more confident than you might feel is to say only what needs to be said. Sometimes when we're not quite sure what we're talking about, we start to get verbal diarrhea and just start talking about everything and anything. And we're kind of taking this kitchen sink approach at trying to explain as many things as possible. Therefore, the people who are listening can go through all of the math and science that you went through to get to your conclusion. That's great for some people, but for many, it's not, especially at the executive level. If you shared your perspective and now you're talking about all the angles and the reasons and the possibilities and the permutations, it's just going to confuse people and frustrate them more than it's going to help the situation. There's another concept called selling past the close, where you can actually have sold an idea and then you keep talking and keep talking and keep talking, and now you've unsold the idea in the person's mind. So if you keep things very simple and plain and you just share what needs to be shared and sit back and let the conversation unfold from there, and then respond to questions or comments or ideas that come up, as opposed to just constantly verbally lawn mowing over everybody. If you sit back and let the conversation unfold in front of you, you'll be able to address situations and concerns, as opposed to creating them for yourself by verbally vomiting all over the situation with all kinds of things that are confusing. Confident people only say what they need to say because they have no need to justify what they're saying, because they believe in it, right? At the end of the day, if you're an authentic person and you authentically believe in a topic or a concept, share that, sit back, look for feedback, guidance, advice from others, or pushback, and then deal with that pushback at that point. But go ahead and just let the conversation play out where others are hearing and processing what you're saying, as opposed to you constantly pushing detail after detail after detail. So those are my 3 tips for how you can sound more confident than you might feel in a given moment, especially if you're in a presentation or an important meeting, or you're dealing with a contentious coworker or disgruntled customer. When you're not quite feeling confident, but you need to sound confident, 3 things that you can do. 1, be plain spoken in your language, believe in what you're saying, and say only what needs to be said. You follow those 3 tips and you'll sound more confident than you might feel. People will build their level of confidence in you, and that will lead to easier conversations in the future as well. I hope this video was helpful to you. If it is, feel free to leave a like. Love to have you subscribe to the channel and learn more like this. With that, I'll see you in the next one.